All right, folks, we are back with more housing market data that is going to show us why plummeting mortgage rates are not going to save this housing market. We're going to jump into some details. We're going to look at some math. You're not going to want to miss it. But before we jump right into it, hit that like button and consider subscribing. It really helps grow and promote the channel, and I appreciate your support. All right, so on the screen is a chart of the 30-year fixed rate mortgage. The average as of today is coming in at 7.1%. Now, if you look here, you can actually see that mortgage rates have dropped substantially over the last 6 weeks. They're down from a high of just over 8%. Now that's a pretty substantial drop in a short period of time, but is it enough to bring demand in and shoot prices to the moon? Because that's the argument that we're hearing today. If mortgage rates drop even further from where they are today, home prices are going to skyrocket. The forecast for the average 30-year fixed mortgage rate in 2024 is becoming more optimistic as well, with the Mortgage Bankers Association predicting mortgage rates will fall to 6.1% by the end of 2024, and Goldman Sachs coming in at 6.8%. But even if we see this reduction in rates, is that going to be enough to drive prices up? Will it bring demand into the market? Is it really going to improve the conditions of the housing market that much? At the moment, where we are today in 2023, the typical home buyer with the median household income, they need to utilize 41% of their income on housing. And you can see that that is up dramatically from where we were just 3 short years ago at 28.5%. Now, the challenge or the issue with that is that the income needed for the typical home buyer to afford the median priced home is now sitting at about $111,000 per year. That is assuming that they'll use about a 30%. That is assuming a 30% debt to income ratio based on the home buyer's gross income. In other words, before tax. Meanwhile, the median household income is only sitting at $78,000 per year. So there is a major disconnect between where income levels need to be and where they actually are today. The median home price today is sitting at about $414,000. That is down slightly from the peak that we saw in May of 2022 at $433,000. So we've seen a minor correction in housing prices yet, but between the correction in prices and the reduction in interest rates, it still really has not improved affordability too much. And let's dig into the math right now so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So there's 2 scenarios that I want to run by you. Scenario 1, let's go ahead and look at the median priced home at $414,000. Let's assume we put about $21,000 down. That's roughly 5%. If we take today's average mortgage rate at 7.1%, the principal and interest payment would be $26.41 per month. And you can see that this guy right here is really sad. He's in tears because of how expensive this is. Now, scenario 2, if we're utilizing the same inputs, we take the median home price, assuming home prices do not go up in value, they do not go down in value, they just simply stay flat. We utilize the same 5% down payment, but let's be even more optimistic with mortgage rates. Let's assume they drop over 1% from where they are today and they come down to 5.99%. Many people out there are saying if rates drop this much, it's going to create this boom in housing and home prices are going to skyrocket. But what does this drop in mortgage rates actually do to the monthly payment? The new principal and interest payment would come in at $23.54 per month. Now that is a monthly payment difference of $287. So it's certainly an improvement. It's nothing to sneeze at, but you can see this guy right here, even though he's no longer crying, he's still pretty sad because even with the lower monthly payment, it's still relatively unaffordable based on where we are with incomes today. Now let's look at that a little bit closer. What income would actually be needed to afford this? So if we take the lower rate and the lower monthly payment, so principal and interest is $23.54 per month. We now have to account for taxes and insurance, roughly $531. That gives you a monthly payment at $28.85 per month. Now, most mortgage companies, most underwriters will allow a debt to income ratio of 36%. So we're even going to be a little bit more lenient here. In some cases, you can even go a little bit higher than this, but let's try to be somewhat conservative. If we use the 36% debt to income ratio, we would need a monthly income coming in at just over $8,000 per month. That's roughly $96,000 per year in order to qualify for that property. Now that is assuming there are no other debts. So we're not talking about credit cards, car payments, student loans, things of that. We're talking just the mortgage payment and no other debts are included. And if we take this one step further, we're referring to the gross pay here of just over $8,000 per month. But of course, the gross pay is not actually what we get to take home. So I think it's fair to assume that take-home pay is roughly 70% of your gross pay because you have to withhold for your taxes, and of course you got to withhold for medical insurance and various different things. So if we use 70% of gross pay, that would give us a net pay after tax at $5,609, which means that this monthly mortgage payment would be roughly 51% of the take-home pay. So the question that I would ask is, even with the lower rates, is this now affordable? Is it sustainable? And I mean, look, we're not accounting for any other expenses at this point. So we're not taking into account things like transportation, utilities, food, healthcare, entertainment. And I suppose the point of me running through this exercise and showing you guys all the math behind this is not because I'm calling for a housing crash. I'm not saying don't go out and buy a home today. But what I am saying is that even if mortgage rates drop pretty substantially from where we are today, if we assume that home prices stay flat and incomes stay flat, then it's still not dramatically more affordable than where we are right now. And so the sad reality is that if we don't see a combination of price reductions, income increasing, or rates going down, affordability is going to remain a challenge here for the foreseeable future. And we may be in a position where we see a larger gap between the haves and the have-nots. And of course, for anyone out there that does want to purchase a home today, I really want to make sure that they understand the math behind the monthly budget so that they don't get caught in a really tough financial situation. All right, that's going to wrap it up for today's video. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, consider subscribing, helps grow and promote the channel, and I appreciate your support. Thank you so much. Take care.